She didn't know who she was really working for. She thought he was just a rich man, until it was too late. He watched her scrub the floors in silence, saying nothing, learning everything. Then one night, he stopped her, told her to stop calling him sir, and call him by his name. That was when she realized he had already claimed her, before any other man ever got the chance. Welcome back, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. 3 days earlier, Naomi Brown stood outside the towering glass building in Gangnam, clutching her employment contract with sweaty palms. The Seoul summer heat was oppressive, making her silk blouse cling to her skin. She'd flown from Atlanta to Seoul with nothing but a suitcase, a prayer, and desperation weighing heavily on her shoulders. Her mother's medical bills were crushing her, suffocating her with their relentless demands. Insurance did not cover the treatments. The experimental drugs cost more than Naomi made in 6 months at her old job. This position, housekeeping for some wealthy businessman, paid triple what she'd earned back home. It was her lifeline, her mother's lifeline. She couldn't afford to mess this up. The building's lobby was all marble and gold fixtures, the kind of wealth that made her feel small. Security guards in crisp uniforms watched her with barely concealed curiosity. She supposed they didn't see many black women in this part of Seoul. She held her head high anyway, refusing to shrink under their stares. The elevator climbed 40 floors in near silence, only the soft hum of machinery accompanying her racing thoughts. She checked her reflection in the mirrored walls one last time. Dark skin glowing under the elevator's soft lights, curves that no professional uniform could quite hide, natural curls pulled into a neat bun at the nape of her neck. She looked professional, respectable, exactly what a high-end housekeeper should look like. She needed this job more than she needed air. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing a penthouse that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a breathtaking view of the Han River, the water glittering under the late afternoon sun. Everything inside was black, white, and chrome. Minimalist, cold, expensive, intimidating in its perfection. Naomi stepped out onto polished marble floors, her sensible flats making no sound. The space was enormous, easily twice the size of the entire house she'd grown up in. A sunken living room held sleek leather furniture. The kitchen was all stainless steel and sharp angles. Everything screamed money and power. "You must be the new maid." The voice came from behind her, smooth and deep, with a hint of something dangerous beneath the surface. Naomi turned, her breath catching in her throat. The man standing in the hallway was devastating in a way that should be illegal. Tall, easily over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his tailored black suit perfectly. Sharp cheekbones carved his face into something almost cruel in its beauty. His hair was dark and perfectly styled, not a strand out of place. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart. Dark, intense, piercing. They seemed to look straight through her, seeing things she hadn't meant to reveal. He wore his power like a second skin, comfortable and absolute. Everything about him screamed danger wrapped in expensive fabric. "Yes, sir." "Naomi Brown." She bowed slightly, the way the employment agency had taught her during orientation. "Keep your head down. Be respectful. Don't make waves." His gaze traveled over her slowly, too slow, starting at her face, trailing down her neck, lingering on the curve of her hips, the fullness of her thighs, before traveling back up to meet her eyes. It wasn't disrespectful exactly, but it was intense, assessing. Something heated flickered in those dark depths, something that made her skin feel too tight, too warm. When his eyes met hers again, something shifted in his expression. His jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. His hands, which had been relaxed at his sides, curled into loose fists. He stared at her, as she'd just knocked the air from his lungs. "Kang Taeyang," he said quietly, his voice rougher than before. "Welcome to my home, Miss Brown." The way he said her name sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. It sounded different in his mouth, intimate somehow. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Kang." She kept her voice professional, steady, even though her heart was hammering against her ribs. He continued to stare at her for a long moment, something unreadable crossing his features. Then he seemed to shake himself mentally. "Your quarters are down that hallway. Second door on the left. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Kim, will go over your duties this evening. She's currently out running errands but should return within the hour." "Yes, sir. I have business to attend to." He moved past her toward the elevator, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her head spin. "Make yourself comfortable. This is your home now, too." Then he was gone, the elevator doors closing on his tall frame, and Naomi could finally breathe again. She pressed a hand to her racing heart, trying to calm down. What was wrong with her? He was her employer, nothing more. She couldn't afford to think of him as anything else. But as she walked toward her new quarters, she couldn't shake the memory of how he'd looked at her, like she was something rare, something precious, something he wanted to possess. Later that evening, Mrs. Kim arrived, a stern-faced Korean woman in her 50s, who ran the household with military precision. She showed Naomi around the penthouse, explaining duties with brisk efficiency. There were 3 other staff members, a chef who came in twice daily, a driver, and a security guard who manned the private elevator. "Mr. Kang values privacy above all else," Mrs. Kim explained in accented English as they toured the expansive space. "He does not like questions about his business. You clean, you cook if needed, you remain invisible, understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "He is very particular. Everything must be perfect. He notices details." Mrs. Kim's expression softened slightly. "But he is fair, generous. If you do good work, he takes care of his people." As they passed Taeyang's study, Mrs. Kim lowered her voice. "That room, you clean carefully. Never touch his desk. Never look at papers. Very important." Naomi nodded, curiosity prickling at the back of her mind. What kind of businessman required such secrecy? She learned the truth from Young Minho, Taeyang's driver and head of security, over dinner in the staff kitchen. The young man had kind eyes, but carried himself like a soldier. When Naomi asked innocent questions about their employer, Minho's expression grew serious. "You seem nice," he said quietly, glancing toward the door to ensure they were alone. "So I'll tell you what you need to know to stay safe. Mr. Kang isn't just wealthy, he's dangerous." Naomi's stomach dropped. "Dangerous how?" "He's the youngest mafia boss in Seoul's underground," Minho explained in a hushed voice. "He controls half the city's trade routes, nightclubs, and protection rackets. People fear him, respect him, but they never, ever cross him." The words settled over Naomi like a shroud. She'd taken a job working for a criminal, a gangster. Fear twisted in her chest, but she forced it down. She needed this money. Her mother needed this money. She'd just have to keep her head down and avoid drawing his attention. But that night, as she cleaned his study, carefully avoiding his desk as instructed, she felt eyes on her. The sensation prickled across her skin, raising goosebumps on her arms. She turned slowly. Taeyang stood in the doorway, still dressed in his suit, but with his jacket gone and his tie loosened. He held a crystal glass of whiskey, the amber liquid catching the light. He was watching her with that same intense look from earlier, dark eyes tracking her every movement. "You're afraid of me," he said. It wasn't a question. Naomi straightened, meeting his gaze, even though her heart raced. "Should I be?" His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, something more dangerous. "Most people are. I'm not most people, Mr. Kang. Something flickered in his eyes. Interest? Surprise? Something darker that made her breath catch. He took a slow sip of his whiskey, never breaking eye contact. Then he stepped into the room, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. The space suddenly felt much smaller. No, he murmured, studying her face like he was memorizing every detail. You're not. He moved closer, stopping a few feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne again, close enough to see the faint scar above his left eyebrow. You're not afraid. You're cautious. There's a difference. I was told you value honesty, Naomi said carefully. So I'll be honest. I need this job. My mother is sick. I'll work hard, keep my head down, and won't cause any problems. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. Your mother. What's wrong with her? Naomi hesitated. This felt too personal, too intimate. But something in his eyes made her answer. Cancer. Stage 3. The treatments are expensive. Taeyong's jaw tightened. He looked away, staring out the window at the glittering city below. My mother died of cancer when I was 17, he said quietly. I couldn't save her. Didn't have the money or the power yet. His hand tightened around the glass. I swore I'd never be powerless again. The confession hung in the air between them, raw and unexpected. Naomi's heart ached for the pain in his voice. I'm sorry for your loss. He turned back to her, something vulnerable flickering across his features before his usual mask slipped back into place. Work hard, Naomi. Keep your mother alive. If you need anything, more money, better doctors, connections, you tell me. Understand? Tears pricked her eyes at the unexpected kindness. Thank you, Mr. Kang. Taeyong, he corrected softly. When it's just us, call me Taeyong. Then he left, taking his whiskey and his overwhelming presence with him. But Naomi stood in his study for a long moment afterwards, hand pressed to her racing heart, wondering what she'd just gotten herself into. The next day, Taeyong left before dawn for what Minho called business meetings. Naomi learned this meant dealing with his criminal empire, collecting debts, negotiating territories, handling threats. She tried not to think about what that entailed. She threw herself into work instead, cleaning the penthouse until it gleamed. The space was beautiful but sterile, lacking any warmth or personality. It felt like a showroom, not a home. The only personal item she found was in Taeyong's bedroom, a framed photograph on his nightstand. The picture showed a younger Taeyong, maybe 18 or 19, standing beside an older man who shared his sharp features. Both were unsmiling, dressed in dark suits, looking at the camera with identical expressions of cold authority. His father, she assumed. Naomi was dusting around the frame when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to find Taeyong in the doorway, watching her. He'd discarded his jacket again, and his white shirt had blood on the cuffs. Fresh blood. Her stomach lurched, but she forced herself to remain calm. That was taken a week before he died, Taeyong said, nodding toward the photograph. His voice was flat, emotionless. I'm sorry, Naomi whispered, carefully setting down the frame. I didn't mean to intrude. It's fine. He walked to the window, hands shoved in his pockets. My father built this empire from nothing. Started as a low-level enforcer and fought his way to the top. He was brilliant. Ruthless. Feared by everyone. He paused. I inherited it all at 23 when he was killed by a rival family, along with all his enemies, his debts, his wars. Naomi heard the weight in his words, the burden he carried. That's a lot of responsibility for someone so young. I didn't have a choice. He turned to face her, and the exhaustion in his eyes made him look older than his years. In this world, you're either strong or you're dead. There's no middle ground. She shouldn't ask, shouldn't pry, but compassion overrode caution. Do you have anyone? Friends? Family. His laugh was bitter. In my world, friends are liabilities, and family is leverage. Trust gets you killed. His eyes met hers. I have soldiers, subordinates, business associates. But no one I can actually trust. No one who sees me as anything other than the devil of soul. That sounds lonely. It is. The admission was soft, almost vulnerable. But it keeps me alive. Keeps my people safe. Naomi's heart ached for him. She saw past the dangerous mafia boss to the man underneath, isolated, burdened, carrying the weight of an empire alone. For what it's worth, she said gently, I don't see you as the devil. His eyes locked onto hers with startling intensity. What do you see? A man doing his best to survive in a difficult world. Something raw flashed across his expression. He took a step toward her, then seemed to catch himself. His hands clenched at his sides. You should finish your work, he said roughly, and stay away from me, Naomi. I'm dangerous for people like you. People like me? Good people. He left before she could respond, but his words echoed in her mind for hours afterwards. A few days later, the dynamics shifted. Taeyang started coming home earlier from his business. He'd sit in the living room while Naomi worked, pretending to read reports on his tablet, but watching her instead. She felt his gaze constantly, burning, intense, following her every movement. It should have made her uncomfortable. Instead, it made her hyper-aware of him, of his presence, of the way the air felt charged when they were in the same room. One evening, she was reaching for a vase on a high shelf in the living room, standing on her toes. The shelf was just out of reach. She stretched higher, fingers barely grazing the crystal, and then she was falling. Strong arms caught her, pulling her back against a solid chest. Taeyang's hands gripped her waist, steadying her, his fingers spanning her curves. His breath warmed the side of her neck, sending shivers racing down her spine. Careful, he murmured, voice rough and low. Naomi's heart hammered so hard she thought he must feel it. She was pressed fully against him, feeling every hard plane of muscle through his shirt. His hands were still on her waist, fingers flexing slightly, thumbs brushing the bare skin where her shirt had ridden up. Heat radiated from him, surrounding her, making her dizzy. She turned her head to thank him and found his face inches from hers. His dark eyes had gone nearly black, pupils blown wide. They dropped to her lips, lingering there with unmistakable hunger. The air between them crackled with tension so thick she could barely breathe. Thank you, she whispered, voice shaky. His grip tightened fractionally. You should be more careful, Naomi. The way he said her name, low, rough, almost possessive, sent heat pooling in her belly. His gaze traveled over her face like a physical touch, lingering on her lips again. You're going to drive me insane. The confession was barely audible, but she heard it, felt it in the way his fingers pressed into her soft flesh, saw it in the hunger darkening his eyes. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world narrowed to just this, his hands on her body, his breath on her skin, the tension vibrating between them. She thought he might kiss her, wanted him to kiss her, even though she knew it was dangerous. But then he released her abruptly and stepped back, jaw clenched tight. He cleared his throat. I have calls to make. He left the room quickly, and Naomi sagged against the wall, legs shaking, heart racing. She pressed her fingers to her lips, still feeling the ghost of his breath on her skin. This was dangerous. So dangerous. But she couldn't seem to stop the attraction pulling her toward him like gravity. That night, Naomi couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt his hands on her waist, heard his rough voice in her ear. Her body remembered his heat, his strength, the way he'd held her like she was precious and breakable all at once. She gave up trying to sleep around midnight and went to the kitchen for water. The penthouse was dark, except for the city lights filtering through the windows. She was pouring herself a glass when she heard movement behind her. Taiyang stood in the kitchen doorway, shirtless, wearing only black sleep pants slung low on his hips. Naomi's mouth went dry. His body was a work of art. Broad shoulders, defined chest, abs that looked carved from marble. But it was the scars that caught her attention. Multiple scars crisscrossing his torso, pale against his skin. Evidence of a violent life. Can't sleep? His voice was rough, like he'd been asleep. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. I rarely sleep well. He moved into the kitchen, his presence filling the space. The mind doesn't quiet easily in my line of work. Naomi found herself staring at the scar across his ribs, long, puckered, clearly from a knife. Without thinking, she reached out, fingers hovering just above it. Does it hurt? His breath caught. Not anymore. His hand caught hers, pressing her palm flat against his chest. His skin was warm, and she felt his heartbeat racing beneath her fingers. You're the only thing that hurts now, Naomi. She looked up, confused. What? Wanting you, he said roughly. Knowing I shouldn't. Knowing you deserve better than someone like me. But wanting you anyway, until it consumes me. His other hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. You've gotten under my skin, into my blood. I can't stop thinking about you. Her breath came in short gasps. Taiyang, tell me to stop. His forehead pressed against hers, eyes closed. Tell me to leave you alone. Tell me this is wrong. But she couldn't, because it didn't feel wrong. It felt inevitable. Like every moment since she'd walked into his penthouse had been leading to this. I can't, she whispered, because I think about you too, constantly. His eyes opened, blazing with need. Naomi. The way he said her name was a prayer and a curse. Then his lips were on hers, and thinking became impossible. The kiss was everything, desperate, hungry, consuming. He kissed her like she was air, and he was drowning, like he'd die if he stopped. His hands gripped her waist, lifting her easily onto the counter. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer, and he groaned into her mouth. His hands roamed her body, mapping every curve with reverent touches. Her fingers threaded through his hair, tugging slightly, and he responded by deepening the kiss until she was dizzy with need. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I shouldn't want you this much, he whispered. It's dangerous. Why? Because people I care about get hurt. His hands framed her face, thumbs stroking her cheeks. I have enemies, Naomi. Lots of them. If they knew about you, if they knew how much you mean to me, they'd use you against me. I'm not afraid. You should be. But his arms tightened around her, contradicting his words. I should push you away, send you somewhere safe. But I can't. I'm too selfish. I need you too much. Naomi cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Then don't push me away. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Something broke in his expression. He kissed her again, softer this time, almost reverent. Mine, he whispered against her lips. Say you're mine, Naomi. Yours, she breathed. I'm yours. The words sealed something between them, a promise that would change everything. By the end of the week, the entire household staff had noticed the change. Their boss, the terrifying Kang Taiyang, smiled when Naomi was around. He asked her preferences for meals, made sure she ate properly, left expensive gifts in her room with handwritten notes. Naomi found designer skincare products in her bathroom one morning with a note. You work too hard. Take care of yourself. The next day, a new phone appeared on her bed, top of the line, already programmed with his number. The note said, so I can reach you whenever I need to hear your voice." Each gift made her heart swell, but it was the small gestures that truly undid her. The way he made sure her favorite coffee was stocked, how he'd brush his fingers against hers when passing in the hallway, the way his eyes softened when she laughed. Minho pulled Naomi aside one morning, expression serious. "Boss is different with you," he said quietly. "I've worked for him for 5 years. Never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Happy." Minho smiled slightly. "But be careful. When boss cares about something, he becomes intense, possessive, protective to the point of obsession." His expression grew grave. "And his enemies will notice. They always do." The warning settled in Naomi's stomach like lead. But when Taeyang came home that evening and pulled her into his arms, kissing her like she was oxygen, she couldn't bring herself to care about the danger. The following week, Taeyang insisted that Naomi stop working as his housekeeper. "You're not my employee anymore," he said firmly, as they had breakfast together. "You're mine. My woman. I don't want you cleaning and cooking. I want you to be happy. Comfortable. I can't just live here doing nothing, Taeyang." "Then do something that makes you happy." He took her hand, thumb stroking her knuckles. "What did you want to do before life got in the way?" Naomi thought about it. "I wanted to go to school, study business management, maybe open my own company someday." His eyes lit up. "Then do it. I'll pay for everything. Tuition, books, whatever you need." "That's too much." "It's not enough," he interrupted. "Nothing I give you will ever be enough, Naomi. Let me do this. Please." The sincerity in his voice made her eyes well with tears. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." He kissed her softly. "You never have to thank me for taking care of you. It's my privilege." That afternoon, Taeyang took her shopping, high-end boutiques in Gangnam, where staff fawned over them. He bought her clothes, shoes, jewelry, all over her protests. "You deserve beautiful things," he said, watching as she modeled a stunning black dress. His eyes darkened with appreciation, traveling slowly over her curves. "You're so beautiful, Naomi, so perfect." She blushed under his heated gaze. "You're biased." "I'm honest." He stood, approaching her slowly. His hand settled on her waist, pulling her close. "Every time I look at you, I can't breathe. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." The shopping trip ended with them in the private changing room, his mouth on hers, hands exploring, until the staff knocked politely to ask if they needed anything else. That evening, Taeyang hosted a business dinner at the penthouse. He'd tried to convince Naomi to stay in her room, but she'd insisted on helping despite his protests. She wore one of the new dresses he'd bought her, elegant and professional, but it hugged her curves in ways that made his jaw clench. The guests were dangerous-looking men in expensive suits. They spoke in rapid Korean, voices low and serious. Naomi served drinks, trying to remain invisible as Mrs. Kim had taught her. But she felt Taeyang's eyes on her, constantly, tracking her every movement with possessive intensity. The other men noticed, too. She caught them glancing at her when they thought Taeyang wasn't looking, whispering to each other. One of them, a sleazy businessman named Park Junho, drank too much. As Naomi passed with a tray of drinks, he grabbed her wrist suddenly, pulling her toward him. His grip was bruising, painful. "You're a pretty little thing," he slurred in heavily accented English, alcohol thick on his breath. "American, right? I like American women, very exotic." His other hand reached for her hip. "How much does Taeyang pay you? I'll double it, triple it. You come work for me instead." Naomi tried to pull away, heart racing. "Please let go." Before she could finish the sentence, Taeyang was there. One moment, Park was grabbing her. The next, he was screaming as Taeyang twisted his wrist with brutal force, forcing him to his knees. The room went deadly silent. "Touch her again," Taeyang said quietly, voice lethal calm. "And I'll break every bone in your hand. Then your arm. Then I'll start on the rest of you." Park's face was white with pain and fear. "Boss, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't know she was yours." "She is." Taeyang's eyes were black with fury, empty of anything resembling mercy. "Mine. Do you understand? Mine to protect. Mine to cherish. Mine to kill for." He applied more pressure, and Park whimpered. "Now get out of my home before I forget we have business together." He released Park, who scrambled backwards, cradling his wrist. The other men helped him up and quickly made their exit, not meeting Taeyang's eyes. When the last guest left, silence filled the penthouse. Minho and the other staff discreetly disappeared, leaving Naomi and Taeyang alone. He turned to her, and she saw his hands were shaking. "Did he hurt you?" His voice was rough, barely controlled. "No. You stopped him." He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, hands framing her face as he searched her eyes. "I wanted to kill him, Naomi, for touching you, for looking at you like that, for daring to speak to you." His jaw clenched. "I've never felt rage like that before. Never lost control like that." "Taeyang, you're driving me insane," he confessed roughly. "Every moment. Every breath. I can't think straight when you're near. Can't focus on anything except wanting you, needing you, making sure you're safe and happy, and mine." His forehead pressed against hers. "Tell me you feel it too. Tell me I'm not losing my mind alone." "You're not alone," she whispered, hands covering his. "I feel it too. This pull between us, this intensity. It terrifies me. Don't be afraid." His thumbs stroked her cheeks. "Not of me. Not of this. Never of what's between us." "I'm not afraid of you," she said truthfully. "I'm afraid of how much I need you, how much I want this. Want you." His eyes blazed. "Naomi!" Then his lips crashed against hers, and the world exploded into sensation. He kissed her with desperate hunger, hands gripping her waist, pulling her flush against his body. She wound her arms around his neck, kissing him back with equal desperation, pouring every emotion into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Taeyang lifted her easily, carrying her toward his bedroom. "I need you," he whispered against her neck. "I need all of you. Tell me I can have you." "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, Taeyang. I'm yours." That night changed everything between them. Taeyang made love to her with an intensity that left them both shaking, pouring years of loneliness and need into every touch, every kiss. He worshipped her body like she was sacred, whispering promises against her skin in Korean and English both. "So beautiful," he murmured, hands mapping every curve. "So perfect. Mine. All mine." Naomi had never felt so cherished, so desired, so completely claimed. When they finally came together, it was overwhelming. A collision of souls that left no room for doubt about what this was between them. Later, as they lay tangled together in his bed, city lights painting patterns across their skin, Taeyang traced lazy circles on her back. "I've never felt like this before," he confessed quietly. "Never let anyone close. Never wanted to. My life doesn't allow for weakness." "Is that what I am?" Naomi asked, looking up at him. "A weakness?" "No." His arms tightened around her. "You're my strength. The only real thing in my entire life. Everything else is business, strategy, violence. But you..." He cupped her face, eyes intense. "You make me want to be better. Make me believe I can be someone other than the devil of soul." Her heart swelled. She kissed him softly. "You're already so much more than that title." He pulled her closer, burying his face in her neck. "Don't leave me," he whispered against her skin. "Promise me you won't leave." "I can't," I can't lose you, Naomi. I promise, she said, meaning it with everything in her. I'm not going anywhere. But fear whispered in the back of her mind. She was falling so hard, so fast, for a man who lived in danger. A man whose enemies would love to hurt him through her. How long could this beautiful, intense thing between them really last? The following morning, Naomi woke alone. Panic seized her chest immediately. The sheets beside her were cold. Had last night been a mistake for him? Did he regret it? Was he going to tell her to leave? The thought spiraled as she dressed quickly, heartbreaking with each passing second. She couldn't stay here if he regretted this. Couldn't bear to see regret in his eyes. She needed to leave before he could reject her, before he could destroy her completely. She was throwing clothes into her suitcase when the bedroom door crashed open. Taeyang stood there, hair disheveled, wearing only hastily pulled-on pants, eyes wild with something that looked like terror. "What are you doing?" His voice cracked on the words. "Leaving." Tears streamed down Naomi's face. "Before you tell me to." He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping her shoulders. "Why the hell would I tell you to leave?" "Because I'm nobody." The words exploded from her, raw and painful. I was your maid, Taeyang. You're you. This was probably just a mistake to you. Don't." His voice was sharp, almost desperate. "Don't you dare call last night a mistake." He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. They were blazing with emotion, fear, anger, desperation. "You're nobody, Naomi. You're everything. You're the only real thing in my entire goddamn life." "Taeyang, I woke up early for a conference call I'd forgotten about," he explained rapidly. "I was coming back to wake you properly when I heard you in here. I thought—" His voice broke slightly. "I thought maybe you were having regrets, that you were leaving me." The vulnerability in his expression shattered her. "I wasn't having regrets. I was scared you were." "Never." He kissed her desperately, holding her like she might disappear. "Listen to me. I've never felt this before. Never wanted someone the way I want you. You've completely undone me." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you, Naomi. I'm in love with you. Completely. Desperately. Terrifyingly." Her breath caught. "What?" "I love you." The words came easier the second time, like a dam breaking. "I've loved you since the moment you walked into my home, since you looked at me without fear, since you made me want to be someone better than what I am." His thumb brushed away her tears. "Don't leave me. Please. I can't lose you. You're all I have that's real and good and pure." Naomi's heart shattered and rebuilt itself all at once. "I love you too," she sobbed. "So much it scares me. So much I don't know what to do with it." Relief flooded his expression. He kissed her again, slower this time, pouring everything into it. "Then stay," he whispered against her lips. "Stay with me. Not as my employee, not as anything temporary. Stay as mine, as my woman, my partner, my everything." "Yes." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "Yes, Taeyang, yes." He held her for a long moment, face buried in her neck, shoulders shaking slightly. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "I need to hear you say it again," he said roughly. "That you love me." "I love you," she said clearly. "I love you, Kang Taeyang." His smile was blinding. "Again." She laughed through her tears. "I love you. Again. I love you. I love you. I love you." He kissed her between each declaration until they were both laughing and crying, tangled together on the floor, surrounded by her scattered clothes. Finally, he pulled back, cupping her face with both hands. "Move into my room," he said. "Officially. Completely. I want to wake up with you every morning. Fall asleep holding you every night. I want everyone to know you're mine. Okay, she whispered. His eyes blazed with possessive satisfaction. Mine, he murmured, kissing her softly. All mine. All yours, she agreed. The next few weeks were blissful in ways Naomi hadn't known were possible. Taeyang moved all her belongings into his bedroom, clearing out half his massive closet for her clothes. He insisted on taking her shopping again, filling the space with designer everything, despite her protests. I like spoiling you, he said simply, watching as she tried on yet another dress. Let me. He was attentive in ways that made her heart ache. He remembered how she took her coffee, left little notes for her when he had to leave early, called her multiple times a day just to hear her voice, held her close at night like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the world. But he was also intensely possessive. When the building's security guard smiled at her too warmly one morning, Taeyang's jaw clenched. The guard was transferred to a different property by that afternoon. You can't reassign people for being friendly, Naomi scolded. I can do whatever I want, Taeyang replied, pulling her into his lap. And I don't like other men looking at what's mine. She should have been annoyed by his jealousy. Instead, something primal in her responded to it, to be claimed so completely. Taeyang introduced her to his inner circle officially, Minho and the other key members of his organization. This is Naomi, he announced at a private dinner in the penthouse. My woman. She's under my protection. Anyone who disrespects her answers to me personally. Anyone who hurts her dies. Understood? The men nodded seriously, studying Naomi with new eyes. She was no longer just the boss's housekeeper. She was his woman. Untouchable. After the dinner, Taeyang held her close on the balcony, looking out over Seoul. I know my world is dangerous, he said quietly. I know I'm asking you to accept things most people couldn't. But I promise I'll protect you with everything I have. I know you will, she said, leaning into his warmth. I'm enrolling you in university next semester, he continued. Business management, like you wanted. And I'm assigning you a security detail. Don't argue, he added, when she opened her mouth to protest. It's not negotiable. My enemies are always watching, always looking for weakness. I won't take chances with your safety. Naomi understood. His life required precautions most people never thought about. Okay. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you for understanding, for accepting all of this, for accepting me. I love all of you, Taeyang, even the dangerous parts. His arms tightened. I don't deserve you. You deserve everything, she whispered fiercely. Don't ever think otherwise. 2 weeks later, Naomi's mother called from Atlanta. The conversation was brief, her mother's voice weak but happy. The treatments were working. The tumors were shrinking. She was going to be okay. Naomi cried happy tears for the first time in months. When Taeyang came home that evening and found her crying, he went pale with fear. What happened? Are you hurt? Did someone... My mom, Naomi sobbed. She's getting better. The doctors say she's responding to treatment. Relief flooded his expression. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Thank God, he murmured. I was so scared something had happened to you. I'm okay. Better than okay. She pulled back to look at him. Taeyang, I want her to come visit, to meet you. Is that okay? His expression softened. Of course, whatever you want. I'll arrange everything. Her flight, accommodations, medical care if she needs it while she's here. You don't have to. I want to, he interrupted gently. She's important to you, which makes her important to me. Besides, I should meet the woman who raised someone as incredible as you. Naomi's heart swelled. She kissed him deeply, pouring her gratitude and love into it. I love you so much. I love you too, Jagia, he murmured against her lips. more than anything. The following week, Taeyang had to travel to Busan for business. He was reluctant to leave, making Naomi promise to stay inside the penthouse while he was gone. "Minho and the security team will be here," he said, checking his watch for the third time. "But I want you to call me if anything at all feels wrong. Promise me." "I promise." She straightened his tie, smoothing her hands over his chest. "Stop worrying. I'll be fine for 2 days." "I don't like leaving you." His hand settled on her waist, pulling her close. "Every instinct is telling me to cancel this trip." "You can't run an empire from the living room," she teased gently. "Go. Handle your business. I'll be right here when you get back." He kissed her thoroughly, possessively, like he was marking her as his. "I'm going to call you every few hours. I'd be disappointed if you didn't." One more kiss, this one softer, almost reluctant. Then he was gone, and the penthouse felt immediately emptier without his presence. Naomi tried to distract herself with online course catalogs for the upcoming semester. She was browsing business programs when her phone rang. Taeyang, calling from the car. "Miss me already?" she answered, smiling. "Desperately." His voice was warm, intimate. "What are you doing?" "Looking at classes. There's a marketing course that looks interesting." They talked for 20 minutes about nothing important. Her classes, his meeting agenda, what they'd have for dinner when he returned. Comfortable. Domestic. Perfect. After hanging up, Naomi felt restless. She wandered the penthouse, ending up in Taeyang's study. She wasn't supposed to be in here without him, but curiosity got the better of her. The room was masculine and imposing. Dark wood furniture, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk. She ran her fingers over the leather chair where he sat, for hours, handling business. On the desk sat several framed photos she hadn't noticed before. One showed a younger Taeyang with his mother, both smiling, before cancer had taken her. Another showed him with Minho and other men, all armed, all serious. His soldiers. The last photo made her breath catch. It was recent, from a few weeks ago. Someone had taken a candid shot of Naomi and Taeyang in the penthouse kitchen. She was laughing at something, head thrown back, and he was looking at her with an expression of such tender love it made her chest ache. He'd framed it, put it on his desk where he could see it while working. The gesture was so sweet, so unexpectedly romantic that tears pricked her eyes. She was still staring at the photo when her phone rang again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello?" Heavy breathing, then a laugh that raised the hair on her arms. "Naomi Brown," a male voice said in accented English. "Kang Taeyang's pretty little American whore." Fear shot through her. "Who is this?" "Someone who's very interested in you." The voice was oily, menacing. "You've made our devil go soft, weak. That makes you valuable, and very, very vulnerable." The line went dead. Naomi's hands shook as she immediately called Taeyang. He answered on the first ring. "Naomi, what's wrong?" His voice sharpened with instant concern. "Someone just called me," she said, voice trembling. "They knew my name, knew about us. They said I made you weak." Taeyang cursed viciously in Korean. "I'm turning around, right now. Don't move from the penthouse. I'm calling Minho. He's coming up right now. Do not answer the door for anyone except him. Do you understand?" "Yes." "I'm so sorry, Jagia." His voice was rough with guilt and fear. "I should never have left you. This is my fault. It's not your fault. It is. My enemies did this. They're targeting you because of me." She heard him barking orders to his driver in Korean. "I'm coming back. I'll be there in 3 hours. Don't be scared. You're safe. The building is secure. No one can get to you." But an hour later, Naomi realized how wrong he was. She was in the bedroom when she heard sounds from the living room. Not the door, something else. Breaking glass. Multiple voices speaking rapid Korean. Terror froze her in place. Then Minho was there, grabbing her arm. "We need to move. Now." "What's happening?" "Beck family." His face was grim as he pulled her toward the panic room Taeyang had shown her once. "They breached building security. I don't know how, but—" The bedroom door exploded inward. Men in black tactical gear flooded in. Too many. Too fast. Minho pushed Naomi behind him, drawing his weapon. But they were outnumbered. One of the attackers hit him from behind with the butt of a rifle. He went down hard. "No!" Naomi screamed. Rough hands grabbed her. She fought desperately, screaming, kicking, clawing. But they were too strong. Someone pressed a cloth over her mouth and nose. Chemical smell, sickeningly sweet. Her vision blurred. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was her phone ringing. Taeyang calling, trying to reach her. Then nothing. Naomi woke to cold concrete beneath her and a pounding headache. She was in some kind of warehouse, vast, dimly lit, smelling of rust and decay. Her hands were bound behind her back with zip ties that cut into her wrists. Terror cleared the remaining fog from her mind. A man stepped into her line of vision. Middle-aged, expensive suit, cold eyes. He crouched down to her level, studying her like she was an interesting insect. "Naomi Brown," he said in perfect English. "Do you know who I am?" She said nothing, glaring at him despite her fear. He smiled without warmth. "I am Beck Ji-won, head of the Beck family. Your boyfriend has been a thorn in my side for years. Kang Taeyang thinks he owns this city." His smile turned cruel. "But everyone has a weakness, even the devil. And you, my dear, are his." "He'll kill you for this," Naomi said, voice steadier than she felt. Beck laughed. "Perhaps. But it will be worth it to watch him suffer. To watch him break." He stood, looking down at her with disdain. "You're pretty, I'll give you that. I can see why he's obsessed, but you're just a woman. Replaceable. Once you're dead, he'll move on. You don't know him at all. We'll see." Bayek checked his watch. "I've already sent him your location. He'll come charging in like the reckless fool he's become since meeting you. And when he does, my men will be waiting. I'll take everything from him, his woman, his power, his life, in that order." Naomi's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about her. They were using her as bait to kill Taeyang. "He's too smart for that," she said desperately. "He won't just rush in." "For you?" Beck's smile was knowing. "Oh, he will. Love makes men stupid. And Kang Taeyang loves you very, very much. It's written all over his face whenever he looks at you. My spies have seen it." He walked away, leaving Naomi alone with her terror. She tested the zip ties, but they were too tight. Her wrists were already bleeding from the plastic cutting into her skin. "Think," she told herself. "There has to be a way out." But before she could form any plan, she heard it. Gunfire. Distant at first, then closer. Shouts in Korean. More gunfire. Explosions that shook the warehouse walls. Taeyang had come for her. The sounds of battle grew closer. Systematic, brutal, efficient. Taeyang's men were trained soldiers, and they moved through Beck's forces like a scythe through wheat. But there were so many of them. Too many. Then the warehouse door exploded inward in a shower of splinters and smoke. And Taeyang walked through like an avenging angel. He was covered in blood, some his, mostly not his. His white shirt was torn and stained crimson. His face was a mask of cold fury, but his eyes were wild, desperate, searching. When they landed on Naomi, something cracked in his expression. Naomi. Her name was a prayer on his lips. Bayek stepped out from behind a pillar, gun pointed at Taeyang's head. "Drop your weapon, or I'll kill her before your eyes." Taeyang froze. His men fanned out behind him. Minho was there, bleeding but alive, along with a dozen others. They had Baek's men outgunned now. But Bayek had his pistol aimed at Naomi's head, finger on the trigger. "I said drop it!" Taeyang's eyes never left Naomi's face. She saw everything there: love, fear, desperation, rage. He was calculating odds, running scenarios, trying to find a way to save her. "It's okay," she called to him, voice shaking but determined. "It's okay, Taeyang! Don't— Shut up!" Baek snarled, pressing the gun harder against her temple. Taeyang's weapon dropped from his hand, clattering on the concrete. "Let her go," he said, voice deadly calm. "Take me instead. She's innocent. She has nothing to do with our war." "But she has everything to do with you," Baek countered. "And that makes her everything to me." Naomi saw it before it happened, saw the calculation in Baek's eyes, the way his finger tightened on the trigger. Time seemed to slow. She saw Taeyang's expression shift from cold calculation to pure terror. Then everything exploded into motion. Taeyang dove forward impossibly fast. Baek's gun fired, the sound deafening in the enclosed space, but Minho had moved too, shooting from the side. Baek's head snapped back, and he crumpled, gun falling from lifeless fingers. The bullet had missed. Naomi was alive. Taeyang reached her in seconds, cutting through the zip ties with a knife, pulling her into his arms with hands that shook violently. "You're okay," he whispered frantically, checking her for injuries. "You're okay. You're alive. You're safe. I'm okay," she sobbed, clinging to him. "I'm okay." He buried his face in her neck, and she felt wetness on her skin. Tears. Kong Taeyang, the devil of soul, was crying. "I thought I'd lost you," he choked out. "When I got that call, when I saw the penthouse, when Minho said they'd taken you, I thought I'd die. I thought my heart would stop. I'm here. I'm safe. You saved me." His arms tightened until she could barely breathe, but she didn't care. "I love you," he whispered desperately. "I love you so much. Don't ever leave me. Don't ever." "Never," she promised. "I'm never leaving you. Never." He pulled back just enough to kiss her, desperate, passionate, claiming, saying everything words couldn't express. Around them, his men secured the warehouse, but Naomi barely noticed. She was safe in Taeyang's arms. Nothing else mattered. The ride back to the penthouse was tense. Taeyang held Naomi in the back seat of the SUV, refusing to let go even for a second. Minho drove, glancing in the rearview mirror with concern. "The Baek family is finished," Minho reported quietly. "We eliminated their leadership. The survivors will scatter." Taeyang nodded, but said nothing. His eyes were on Naomi, checking her repeatedly like he needed to confirm she was really there, really alive. Back at the penthouse, he carried her straight to the bathroom despite her protests that she could walk. He started the shower, keeping the water warm, and helped her undress with gentle hands. "I can do it," she said softly. "Let me." His voice was rough. "I need to take care of you. Need to see that you're really okay." So she let him. Let him wash away the grime and fear, his hands trembling as they moved over her body. He was checking for injuries, she realized, making sure they hadn't hurt her. "I'm okay," she whispered, just scared. But okay. His forehead pressed against hers as water cascaded over them both. "This is my fault. They took you because of me, because I was selfish enough to keep you in my life despite the danger." "Stop." She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "This isn't your fault. And I choose this. Choose you. Choose us. No matter what." "Naomi, I love you," she said fiercely. "Nothing that happened today changes that. If anything, it proves what I already knew. You'd do anything to protect me. You'd burn down the world to keep me safe. I would, he confirmed roughly. I will. Anyone who even thinks about hurting you will face me. I'll make sure every criminal in this city knows what happens to people who touch what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safe, cherished, protected. That night, he made love to her with desperate intensity, like he needed to prove to both of them that she was alive and safe and his. Afterwards, he held her so tight, she could barely breathe, face buried in her hair. I can't lose you, he whispered into the darkness. I survived my father's death, my mother's death, every enemy, every betrayal. But losing you would destroy me completely. You're not going to lose me, she promised. I'm right here. I'm staying right here. His arms tightened. Promise me. Promise you'll never leave. I promise, Taeyang. I'm yours. Forever. The words seemed to settle something in him. Forever, he repeated. Mine forever. Yours forever, she agreed. The next morning, Naomi woke to find Taeyang watching her sleep. His eyes were shadowed, like he hadn't slept at all. How long have you been awake? She asked. All night. He brushed hair from her face. I kept having nightmares that you weren't real, that I'd lost you. Her heart ached. She pulled him down for a gentle kiss. I'm real. I'm here. I've made a decision, he said quietly. I'm pulling back from the business. Not entirely. I can't. Not without creating a power vacuum. But I'm delegating more. Reducing my exposure. Reducing your exposure. Taeyang, you don't have to. I do. His expression was resolute. My empire means nothing if you're not safe. Nothing if I lose you. So I'm making changes. More security. Less risk. Whatever it takes to keep you alive. Tears pricked her eyes at the sacrifice he was willing to make. Okay. And I want you to move permanently into the master suite. I want everyone to know you're not my girlfriend or my mistress. You're my woman. My partner. Mine in every way that matters. I'm already yours. Not officially. He sat up, reaching for something on the nightstand. When he turned back, he was holding a small velvet box. Naomi's breath caught. Taeyang opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring, emerald cut, surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Naomi Brown, he said, voice shaking slightly. I know we've only known each other a few months. I know this is fast. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. He took her hand, eyes intense on hers. You walked into my life and changed everything, made me want to be better, made me believe I deserve happiness, made me feel human again. Tears streamed down her face. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love someone, he continued. You're my home, my peace. My everything, and I don't want to waste another day without you being completely, officially, permanently mine. He pulled the ring from the box. Marry me, Naomi. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, worshiping you. Say yes. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, yes, 1,000 times. Yes. His smile was blinding as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He kissed her deeply, possessively, claiming her all over again. Mine, he whispered against her lips. My fiancée, my future wife, mine forever. Forever, she agreed, looking at the ring sparkling on her hand. I'm yours forever, Kang Taeyang. And she meant every word. The engagement news spread through Seoul's underground like wildfire. Kang Taeyang, the devil of Seoul, was getting married to an American woman, a black woman who'd walked into his life as a maid and captured his heart completely. Some called it weakness. Those people disappeared quietly. Most called it what it was, a warning. Naomi Brown was untouchable, protected by the most dangerous man in the city. Anyone who even looked at her wrong would face his wrath. Taiyang took no chances. He tripled her security detail, installed panic buttons throughout the penthouse, made sure she was never alone, never vulnerable. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, Naomi felt cherished. 3 weeks after the proposal, her mother arrived from Atlanta. Taiyang had arranged everything: first-class flights, a suite in Seoul's most luxurious hotel, even a private nurse to accompany her during travel. Naomi met her at the airport, throwing herself into her mother's arms. "Mama, I missed you so much." "My baby girl," her mother pulled back, studying her face. "You look different." "Happy?" Glowing. "I am happy." Naomi showed her the ring. "Mama, I'm getting married." Her mother's eyes widened. "This is the man you told me about? Your employer?" "He's so much more than that." Naomi's smile was radiant. "Come meet him. You'll understand." Taeyang was waiting at the penthouse, nervous in a way Naomi had never seen. He'd changed clothes 3 times, asking repeatedly if he looked appropriate. The devil of Seoul, terrified of meeting his fiancée's mother. When they arrived, he bowed deeply, respectful, sincere. "Mrs. Brown, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you for trusting me with your daughter." Her mother studied him carefully. Naomi held her breath. Then her mother smiled. "Any man who looks at my daughter the way you're looking at her right now has my blessing." Relief flooded Taeyang's expression. "Thank you. I promise. I'll spend every day making her happy, keeping her safe, loving her the way she deserves." "I believe you will." Over dinner, Taeyang was charming and attentive, asking about her mother's health, her life in Atlanta, and sharing stories about Naomi that made her blush. Her mother laughed more than Naomi had heard in years. Later, as Taeyang showed her mother to the guest suite, Naomi heard her whisper, "He loves you very much, baby. Hold on to that." "I will, Mama. I promise." The following week, final threats emerged. A rival syndicate made one last attempt to destabilize Taeyang's power by targeting Naomi during a shopping trip. Her security detail neutralized the threat within minutes, but it was the final straw. Taeyang called a meeting of every major crime family in Seoul. He stood before them, Naomi at his side, and delivered an ultimatum. "This woman is my fiancée," he announced, voice carrying absolute authority. "Soon she'll be my wife. Anyone who threatens her, insults her, or even looks at her wrong will answer to me personally. I will show no mercy, no forgiveness, no second chances." His eyes swept the room. "Test me if you doubt my sincerity, but know that I'll burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt her." The message was received. The threats stopped. 2 months later, on a perfect autumn day, Naomi walked down an aisle lined with white roses toward the man she loved. Taeyang stood at the altar in a traditional black tuxedo, eyes locked on her with such love it took her breath away. The ceremony blended Korean and American traditions. They exchanged vows in both languages, promising forever in every way that mattered. "I was dead before you," Taeyang whispered as he slipped the wedding band on her finger. "You brought me back to life. You're my home, my peace, my everything. I love you more than words can express." "I love you too," Naomi whispered back, tears streaming down her face. "My husband, my love, my forever." Their kiss sealed a promise that would last a lifetime. The reception was lavish, hundreds of guests, live music, and champagne flowing freely. But Taeyang only had eyes for his wife, holding her close as they danced, whispering promises against her ear. Mrs. Kang, he murmured. Finally mine in every way. Finally yours, she agreed. Forever. 6 months later, Naomi stood in their bathroom, hands shaking as she stared at the pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. Positive. She was pregnant with Taeyang's child. When he came home that evening, she was waiting with the test hidden behind her back. I have news. His expression immediately shifted to concern. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She pulled out the test, holding it up with a trembling smile. We're having a baby. For a moment, he just stared. Then his face transformed, shock giving way to pure joy. A baby? We're having a baby? Yes. He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. We're having a baby. He set her down gently, immediately worried. Are you okay? Do you feel sick? Should you sit down? Do we need to call a doctor? She laughed, cupping his face. I'm fine. Perfect, actually. His hand settled on her still flat stomach, eyes shining with wonder. Our baby. Our family. He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against her stomach. I promise I'll protect you both. Love you both. Give you everything. Naomi ran her fingers through his hair, heart overflowing. I know you will. 8 months later, Naomi held their daughter in her arms, tiny, perfect, with her mother's dark skin and her father's intense eyes. Taeyang sat beside her hospital bed, staring at his daughter with absolute awe. She's perfect, he whispered. You're both perfect. What should we name her? Naomi asked. He was quiet for a moment. Sophia, it means wisdom. I want her to be wise, strong, like her mother. Sophia Kang, Naomi smiled. It's perfect. Taeyang gently took his daughter, cradling her with infinite care. Hello, Sophia, he murmured. I'm your appa, and I promise you'll never know fear or want. You'll grow up loved, protected, cherished. His eyes met Naomi's, blazing with emotion. Just like your mother. As Naomi watched her husband hold their daughter, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She'd come to Seoul broken and desperate, looking for a way to save her mother. Instead, she'd found something infinitely more precious. She'd found love, found home, found a man who'd moved heaven and earth to protect her, who'd changed his entire world to keep her safe, who looked at her every day like she was the most precious thing in existence. I love you, she whispered. Taeyang looked up, daughter still cradled in his arms, and smiled, that rare, beautiful smile reserved only for her. I love you too, Jagia, forever and always. Forever and always, she agreed. Outside the hospital window, Seoul sparkled in the evening light. But inside this room, their small family was complete, perfect, safe. And that, Naomi thought as Taeyang kissed her softly while their daughter slept peacefully between them, was the greatest treasure of all. Love had conquered trauma, conquered danger, conquered fear, and it would last forever.